Hello everyone, my name is Brandon Harmon, and I don't like to brag. I say that, but here I am about to tell you about how I got the best birthday present ever. It was my ninth birthday, and my dad said that my present was a surprise. So he loaded into his truck and headed into town. Now 9-year-old me, my brains are racing to imagine what this present could be. I'm thinking that I'm going to get the biggest, grandest present of all the 9-year-olds, and I cannot imagine what this could be. Now, I did get the biggest, grandest present of all the 9-year-olds, but it was not in the way that I had expected. What I was given was a ride to this shed-like building where inside I would learn Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Now, this may not sound that grand, but it is an experience that changed my life for the better. Now, if you look at 9-year-old me in the red, you'll note at least one thing, that I'm not a very big child. I'm small. I have slender arms and a tiny physique, and almost no one would say that's intimidating, which I've never been intimidating, and I don't think I am now. But this actually drew me into jujitsu because I wasn't intimidating, and jujitsu did not focus on being such, nor did it focus on being large, big, or strong, all of which I wasn't. But what I was witty and willing to put in the time and effort to learn the techniques needed to beat my opponents. And this is the foundation on which jujitsu lies. And the foundation on which it lies can be traced back to Carlos Gracie, who in 1917 was introduced to fighting by walking on the street and seeing a Japanese man submitting opponents who are much larger than him. Now, after this sparked the flame inside of him, which could not be put out. He continually asked to be trained in such arts until his father's friend, Medea, eventually agreed. And in just 7 short years, he learned enough to open his own academy, which he called Gracie Academy. And this was not the end of him. Throughout his life, he had 25 children, over half of whom became black belts in jiu-jitsu. At least according to Gracie Mag, which is an internet magazine dedicated to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Continuing on, we have Carlos's son, Helio Gracie, who, with his iron will and slender physique, he advanced the sport in ways that helped refine it to a point where the smaller had the greatest advantage. I mean this in the sense that he had different techniques that would give them such advantages. But this is not what Helio is known for. In 1967, Helio Gracie became the president of the Guanabara Jiu-Jitsu Foundation, which was founded the same year. And through this position of power and his many brothers who were along him with this, they helped grow the name of Jiu-Jitsu to a point where it would be recognizable throughout the most of Brazil. Now, a not so notable Gracie would be Royce Gracie. Royce Gracie was not one of the greats at Jiu-Jitsu like Helio, but he's probably the most recognizable Gracie. And that's because he came to America. He brought this Jiu-Jitsu over with him and competed in the Ultimate Fighting Championship, which now we only call the UFC. And not only did he compete in the UFC 1, he won UFC 1. And this cemented in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as a fighting style in the United States, and it's what helped kickstart MMA, not within the United States, but MMA, as a martial arts was kickstarted by Royce Gracie showcasing that jiu-jitsu was a competent fighting style. Now, what is MMA, you may ask? MMA consists of almost any martial art you can think of, but it can be narrowed down to a couple few. And according to Britannica, that couple few is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, boxing, wrestling, judo, karate, and Muay Thai. Now, the UFC is based around MMA, and what started as a tournament to find the most effective martial art has grown into a national multi-million-dollar business. But back on the part of it being a tournament to find the most effective art. It succeeded in such, and that successive arts were as follows: Jiu-Jitsu, boxing, wrestling, judo, karate, and Muay Thai. Now, you may remember from just a few seconds ago about how I mentioned what was MMA, and that everything just listed was in there. And you'd be correct. That's because once these were defined as the main few, the competitors would take, beg, borrow, or steal some of the disciplines from the other arts and use them in their own fighting style. And once one did it, they all had to do it until their fighting styles were no longer original to what they had started. They had taken a form of their own, to which we now know as MMA. And MMA started from just a young man walking on the street who happened chance saw a man fighting, and it's grown into a universal brand that is synonymous with MMA, thus synonymous with UFC. In its rich history of innovation and growth, how Carlos Gracie sprouted the roots of Jiu-Jitsu by nothing other than sheer will, and how this furthered by Helio, he refined the sport to something that could be brought over to the Americas by Royce. And when in the Americas, it took the stage, and it kept the stage. I thank you for your time and attention today. I hope we have all learned something.